Control is seductive. It whispers promises of stability, of predictability, of certainty. We tell ourselves that if we plan well enough, work hard enough, and think far enough ahead, we can steer life in exactly the direction we want. We wear this illusion like armor, pretending that if we're careful and disciplined, nothing can go wrong. But reality has other plans. Life unfolds on its own terms. No matter how much effort we put into controlling the outcome, life continues to surprise us. A single phone call can change everything. One unexpected moment can unravel years of preparation. We live under the illusion that we are the masters of our fate, when in truth, we're just learning how to ride the waves. Control, at its core, is a coping mechanism. It's a way to soothe our fear of the unknown. But the tighter we cling to it, the more we set ourselves up for disappointment. Letting go of the lie isn't easy, but recognizing it is the first step. When we stop pretending we control it all, we finally create space to respond to life as it is, not as we wish it to be. We chase certainty like it's the prize at the end of the race. We organize, plan, and plot with the belief that if we can just stay one step ahead, we'll feel safe. We imagine that certainty will give us peace, that knowing what's coming will shield us from pain or failure. But the truth is, certainty is as much an illusion as control. Life is unpredictable. Things change, people change. Circumstances shift with no warning. And no matter how well we prepare, we can't account for everything. Still, we try. We overthink. We second guess. We make backup plans for our backup plans. All in the name of security. But in doing so, we often miss what's happening right now. We become so fixated on protecting ourselves from the future that we forget to live in the present. Chasing certainty creates tension. It builds anxiety, not safety. It convinces us that if we're not prepared for every outcome, we've failed. But life is not a puzzle to solve. It's an experience to be lived. The more we release the need to know what's next, the more peace we allow into our lives. Certainty was never the goal. Presence is. We grow up believing in the idea of a perfect life. A life where everything makes sense, where our choices always lead to the right outcomes, where we're happy, successful, and admired. We chase that mirage endlessly. We measure ourselves against imaginary timelines and flawless expectations. We think that if we just work hard enough, if we control every variable, we'll get there. But perfection is not real. It's a concept sold to us by curated images, highlight reels, and unrealistic standards. And the more we chase it, the more we feel like we're falling short. Because no matter how much we achieve, there's always more to fix, more to improve, more to perfect. It's a trap. The pursuit of perfection robs us of peace. It makes us afraid to take risks, afraid to be seen in our flaws, afraid to fail. But growth comes from imperfection. Strength comes from stumbling. Beauty comes from the cracks, not the polish. The moment we let go of the mirage of a perfect life, we give ourselves permission to live a real one. One that's messy, unpredictable, and beautifully ours. Perfection isn't the destination. Presence, honesty, and wholeness are. We cling to control because it feels safe. It gives us the illusion that if we just plan well enough, if we prepare for every possibility, we can shield ourselves from pain, failure, and disappointment. But the tighter we grip, the more anxious we become. Control becomes a weight we carry, not a comfort. Every detail must be managed. Every outcome must align. And when things don't go as expected, and they rarely do, we spiral. We blame ourselves. We question our worth. We wonder what we did wrong. But maybe we didn't do anything wrong. Maybe life is just unpredictable by nature. The anxiety comes not from the chaos, but from the belief that we're supposed to stop it. That we should be able to control the uncontrollable. But life isn't a formula. It's not a series of inputs that guarantee the same results. It's alive, wild, and full of surprises. When we finally understand that control is not security but stress, we begin to loosen our grip. We start to breathe again. We find peace not in controlling everything, but in learning how to live within the uncertainty. Real strength isn't in managing every moment. It's in navigating the unknown. Think back to the times when you tried to manage every single detail of your life. Your job, your relationships, your thoughts, your emotions. What did it bring you? Maybe a fleeting sense of order, but more often, it brought exhaustion. You were constantly calculating, constantly planning, constantly adjusting to make things fit your idea of how they should be. You weren't living. You were managing. Controlling everything becomes a full-time job with no off switch. It drains your energy. It clouds your mind. And it disconnects you from what truly matters. You become so focused on outcomes that you forget the joy of the process. You stop listening to your instincts. You stop noticing the beauty in the moment. The tighter you try to hold on to control, the more it slips through your fingers like water. And in that effort, you end up tired, frustrated, and more out of control than ever. Life is not meant to be forcefully held in place. It's meant to be experienced. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to let go. Breathe deeply. And trust that you don't need to grip everything to move forward. The more we try to control life, the more we miss out on living it. We get so consumed with planning the future, fixing the past, and orchestrating every little detail that we forget to be present. Our minds race with what-ifs and to-do lists, leaving little room for the here and now. We become so obsessed with making things perfect that we lose sight of the beauty already around us. We overlook laughter because we're focused on outcomes. We miss quiet moments of peace because we're chasing the next big milestone. In trying to make life flawless, we strip it of its spontaneity, its surprises, its soul. Presence requires surrender. It requires us to stop gripping the steering wheel so tightly and simply observe. It means noticing the way light hits the trees in the morning, hearing the tone in someone's voice when they say your name, feeling your own breath in your chest. These are the things that make life vivid and real. When we are present, we stop needing life to go a certain way. We start appreciating it for how it is. Control distracts, presence anchors, and life in all its messiness lives in the now. We spend our lives trying to manage what was never ours to command. We plan our days like clockwork, map out 5-year goals, and cling tightly to routines that give the illusion of stability. Yet deep down, we know we don't control the weather. We can't dictate how others behave. We can't undo the past or predict what's coming next. And still, we try. We overthink, overplan, and overwork ourselves, hoping that if we just do everything right, nothing will go wrong. But life doesn't obey formulas. We confuse control with safety because surrender feels risky. Vulnerability scares us. Trusting the unknown feels foolish. So we grip harder, micromanaging details, chasing certainty, and calling it responsibility. But in truth, all that effort only creates more fear, more pressure, more distance from the life we actually want. Real peace doesn't come from dominating every moment. It comes from learning to flow with what is. It comes from releasing the urge to fix what can't be fixed and accepting what we cannot change. When we let go of the illusion of control, we discover the strength to adapt. We stop resisting reality and start living within it. That's where true freedom begins. Letting go of control isn't about quitting. It's about making space. Space for growth, space for new beginnings, space for trust. Real trust is not blind. It is brave. It asks us to move even when the path ahead is foggy. It challenges us to believe in something deeper than a plan, deeper than certainty. It invites us to listen to our instincts, to follow what feels true, even if it doesn't come with guarantees. Surrender does not mean passivity. It means choosing to release the pressure, to have it all figured out. It means understanding that trying to control every outcome only stifles our creativity and keeps us locked in fear. When we loosen our grip, we create room for possibilities we never imagined. We allow life to surprise us. We open ourselves to lessons we would have missed while trying to stay in charge. Trust teaches us patience. It shows us that things often unfold in the right way at the right time, even if it's not our timeline. It reminds us that we are resilient, adaptable, and capable. Letting go is not the end of effort. It is the beginning of freedom, of moving forward with openness and courage. At the root of control is often fear. We may not admit it, but beneath all the planning, micromanaging, and obsessing lies a deep discomfort with uncertainty. Fear whispers that if we let go, everything will fall apart. So we tighten our grip. We overcommit. We overthink. We convince ourselves that if we can just control the details, we can avoid pain. But that kind of control doesn't protect us. It traps us. When fear drives our decisions, we start living someone else's version of success. We chase careers we don't love. We maintain relationships that drain us. We suppress parts of ourselves to fit into a mold we never chose. We call it discipline, but often it's just fear in disguise. A fear of failure, of not being enough, of being exposed as imperfect. Control becomes a barrier. It builds walls between us and the life that could be. A life of passion, risk, growth, and authenticity. The cost of control is not just exhaustion. It's disconnection from ourselves, from others, from purpose. The antidote is not more control. It's courage. The courage to face our fears honestly, and to choose freedom over false security. Control does more than exhaust us. It isolates us. When we become fixated on sticking to our plan, on ensuring every detail of life unfolds according to our design, we begin to shut others out. We stop asking for help. We stop listening. We stop trusting. Vulnerability becomes a threat, and connection starts to feel risky. So we choose the illusion of self-sufficiency instead. To preserve our image of control, we hide the parts of ourselves that feel uncertain or messy. We avoid showing weakness. We avoid being real. In doing so, we build invisible walls between ourselves and the people who care. We convince ourselves that letting people in will disrupt our carefully constructed lives. So we isolate, even if we don't mean to. But life is not meant to be a solo mission. We are wired for connection, for intimacy, for shared experiences. True connection cannot exist without honesty. It requires us to let go, to open up, to be seen in our rawness. When we loosen our grip and allow ourselves to be known, we invite others in. And in that space of mutual vulnerability, control loses its power, and love begins to grow. Change does not begin with a dramatic moment. It begins quietly, with awareness. We start by noticing when we are clenching, when we are holding on too tightly to something that does not want to be controlled. Maybe it is a relationship, a career path, a plan we thought was perfect. We start to observe our own patterns, the worry, the tension, the constant urge to fix, shape, or manage every piece of our lives. That awareness is the first step. It shines a light on the inner struggle between fear and trust. Once we are aware, the next step is letting go. Not in a careless or passive way, but in a way that creates space for life to move naturally. We practice loosening our grip. We practice releasing the pressure to control what is not ours to command. This does not mean we stop caring or stop making decisions. It means we learn to trust ourselves and trust the process. Life is not always clean or predictable, but it has a rhythm. When we let go of the need to dominate every moment, we begin to flow with that rhythm. And in that flow, we find peace. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means choosing a different kind of freedom. The kind that comes from presence, from stepping into the current of life, instead of constantly trying to swim upstream. When we release the need to control every outcome, we unburden ourselves from the pressure of perfection. We stop dragging around the heavy expectations we once thought were necessary to succeed. Instead, we begin to move with life, not against it. In this space, we discover a quieter power. The power of openness, of curiosity, of trust. Control tries to dictate every detail, demanding guarantees and certainty. It wants a clear roadmap before we even take the first step. But trust whispers a different truth. It invites us to begin, even without knowing the ending. It gives us permission to be messy, to be real, and to allow life to surprise us. Freedom does not come from mastering everything. It comes from accepting what is and choosing to keep going anyway. When we align with life instead of fighting it, we find a flow. In that flow, we are lighter, we are freer, and we are more fully alive than ever before. Control often feels like power, but it is a fragile kind of power. It depends on things going exactly as planned, and life rarely cooperates. The more we try to force outcomes, the more we feel defeated when reality refuses to comply. We suffer not because life is chaotic, but because we resist that chaos. The real strength lies in learning to let go, not out of defeat, but out of clarity, out of the deep understanding that life is not something to be tamed, but something to be experienced. Surrender is not giving up. It is showing up. It is choosing to meet life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It is allowing space for surprise, for mystery, for growth. It is standing in the storm and knowing you do not have to control the wind to keep moving forward. When we surrender, we stop fighting ourselves. We stop demanding certainty and start embracing the unknown. In that surrender, we find peace. In that openness, we uncover unexpected beauty. There's grace in the mess. There's wisdom in releasing what cannot be held. And in that release, we begin to truly live. If you agree, ink, rage, repeat, share, like, and subscribe. See you next time.